All right, here is our answer key for our Chapter 6 test review. So in number 1, it says, without solving, what 3 things can you tell me about the product of the expression below? So 9 times 1/4. So if I look at the number 1/4, I know that that number is less than a whole. So if I multiply 9 by a number that is less than a whole, that means the answer is going to be smaller than 9. So one thing that I can say is that the product will be less than 9, but 1/4 times a number that is greater than a whole means that my answer or my product is going to be greater than 1/4. So the product will be less than 9, but greater than 1/4. Another thing that I can say is that the product will be 9 times greater than 1/4. And then another thing I can say is that the product will be 1/4 of 9. Looking at number 2, it says, draw a model and show your work for the following problem. Debbie bought 16 yards of fabric. She used 3/4 of the fabric. How much of the fabric did she use? So I'm going to draw a box, and this is going to represent 16 yards of fabric. Well, I need to split it into 4 groups. So if I have 16 and I have 4 groups in each, I can write this as 16/4. But I know that 16/4 is equivalent to 4. So each of these boxes has a value of 4. So if Debbie is using 3/4 of it, she would have used this much. So 4 times 4, or 4 plus 4 plus 4 is going to be 12 yards of fabric. On number 3, Johnny bought 19 feet of wood for a project. He used 1/3 of the wood. How much wood did he use? How much wood does he have left? So I am finding 1/3 of the 19 feet of wood that he found or used. 19 is representing the feet of wood. What is referenced as 1? So up here when it says 1/3, that's representing part of something, and that 1/3 is representing the feet of wood. How much wood did he use? So down here I need to draw my model of this. So I'm going to use kind of the same strategy up here. So this model is going to represent 19, and I'm going to split it into 3 groups. So this is going to have a value of 19/3, this has a value of 19/3, and this has a value of 19/3. So I'm going to divide 3 into 19 over here so I can get my total. So 3 can go into 19 6 times because 3 times 6 gives me 18. So when I subtract, I'm left with 1. So he used 6 1/3 feet of the wood. So how much wood does he have left? Another way to write 19 is that I'm going to actually write it as 18 3/3 minus 6 1/3. So I can regroup or I can subtract my fraction. So 3/3 minus 1/3 is going to, I'm running out of space, so I'll write it over here, 2/3. And then 18 minus 6 is obviously going to give me my 12. So he has 12 2/3 feet of wood left. Okay, number 4, I need to use the open array model. So I'm going to decompose the number 3 1/4 and 10 1/2. So I'm going to put 3 1/4 here, and then 10 1/2 here. So I'm going to do 10 times 3 in this box, 10 times 1/4 in this box, 3 times 1/2 in this box, and 1/2 times 1/4 in this box here. So 10 times 3 is going to equal 30. And 10 times 4 can also be written as 10 over 1 times 1/4, so I can multiply straight across, so that's going to equal 10/4. 10/4 can also be written as 2 1/2. 3 over 1 times 1/3 is going to equal 3/3. And I know that, oh, whoops, this should be 3 1/2, excuse me. So this should be 3/2. And 3/2 is also equivalent to 1 1/2. And then I have 1/2 times 1/4, which is going to give me 1/8. My last step is I just need to add up all these answers here. So I need 30 plus 2 1/2 plus 1 1/2 plus 1/8. So I have 30 plus 2 1/2 plus 1 1/2, or 2 plus 1 equals 3 plus another 1 equals 4 1/8. So my answer should be 34 1/8. But since we're finding the area of something, our answer is going to be 34 1/8 feet. And then we need to make sure that the answer is squared.